Hi, everybody. Welcome to AITP Atlanta's October chapter meeting and a special one. We have our 8th annual Women Leaders in Technology Forum. I'm really excited. This has been a growing panel event of ours for quite some time, and the discussion never disappoints. So, thank you, ladies, for joining us. It's great to have you here and volunteering your time to share some of your experience with us. But before we get into the main event, just again, thank you everybody for sitting in. AITP, Association of Information Technology Professionals, we are a nonprofit 100% volunteer ran organization. We're 100% membership driven, and the donations from, or the membership prices help us out, but our a lot of the dollars that come in to help us bring these events to our audience come from our sponsors, both from our bronze sponsor Transformation Lead and our silver sponsor Synergist. But one of the other things that we do, of course, I did want to mention that we do have a discount on our membership right now. So if you sign up for a 1-year membership before the end of the year while we're 100% virtual, it will only be $40. Once we go back to, thank goodness, going back to face-to-face meetings in January, our annual membership will go back to the traditional $89 for a calendar year. So please try and take advantage of that now. In addition to that, just a little quick preview, we have our nominations coming up for our 2022 Board of Directors. Again, this is a 100% volunteer-driven organization. If there's something that you want to do to kind of give back to the community that you may not have had the opportunity to before, this is a fantastic group to be able to do that with. So please feel free to just shoot me an email if you're interested in volunteering your time, president@aitpatlanta.org. Before we jump into the panel, I would like to give our sponsors just a quick opportunity to share a little bit about their companies. Why don't we start off with Georgette, Transformation Lead.
Well, hello there, Steve. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm so excited that we are at our 8th annual Women Leaders in Technology Forum. I remember when we came up with the idea of doing it 8 years ago. So I'm excited that we've gotten this far and that we're able to highlight some amazing women this week and this year on this year's panel. So our company, Transformation Lead, is a bronze sponsor with AITP Atlanta, and we are excited. We're a digital innovation company. We work with modernizing enterprise technology as well as government technology. So, and we're actually growing as well. So those looking to either enter tech or grow with tech, we are out there looking for some amazing technologists to join us. But in addition to that, if your organization needs any strategy design, implementation, or just expertise in that digital transformation space or implementing enterprise technology, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll pass the baton on.
All right. And our silver sponsor, thank you very much, Georgette. Our silver sponsor is Synergist IT and Creative Staffing. And I'd like to introduce Sophia Krasny, who will share a little bit about that organization.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve. And I can't wait to hear about this panel as well we have tonight, because the fact that this has been 8th year in the making, I just can't wait to hear the amazing women we have on this panel. So love some women thought leaders in technology. I work with Synergist, and we are a specialized staffing firm that specifically works with IT and creative. And so that is all things digital, product, UX, and we help teams move along with their digital transformations by being able to provide them with the right talent to do so. So we're calling this year the Great Resignation. I think we've all heard it over and over. So how we're retaining talent, how we're able to find talent, and make sure you're finding the right people as well. That's something that we can definitely partner with you on. So if you are interested in growing your team, or if you are looking for a position yourself, definitely reach out to us. We can be able to do portfolio reviews, resume reviews, give you some advice to make sure you find the best next step in your career. So thanks again, Steve, and look forward to hearing you ladies speak.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Sophie. And thank you both very much. Again, the dollars that you guys do really contribute heavily towards us bringing these programs on a monthly basis. So thanks a lot. I think our preamble kind of is done, and I'm going to pass the baton over to this evening's moderator, I'm going to go right back to Georgette Frazier-Moore. Again, just I've known Georgette for a number of years, really through my involvement with AITP, and it's really been an honor. So I'm going to shut myself off because I'm not part of the panel, and Georgette, show's all yours.
It is definitely an honor. We have some amazing women, as I mentioned earlier, on this year's panel. Some you may have seen before, some that's new to AITP Atlanta, but if you didn't know them before, you'll know them today, and you should have already known them. So I'm going to start with introductions. So the first thing I want to do is go around the room, our virtual room, and have everyone give your name, tell us who you are, the company that you work for, and kind of what do you do? What's your, what is it that you act, not just your title, but what do you do? And Sudanese, do you want to start?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Excited to be here. This is actually my first time. I guess I may be the only newbie on the panel this time, but I'm excited to be here and share with you guys tonight. So I'm Sudanese Spence. I'm the technology director for Southern Company. If you've heard of Georgia Power, that is one of our affiliate companies along with Alabama, Mississippi, and we also support gas company as well, Southern Gas and Nuclear. So excited about the opportunity again to be here. I've been with the company now for about, I don't want to date myself, but 2.5 years. I've been in the project and program management space for well over 20 plus years. I've worked for IHG, Serta Simmons Bedding, for Motor Company, General Motors. I think if I counted correctly before the meeting, this was actually my 6th PMO that I've either led, built, or organized in some way, shape, or form, enterprise, global, the whole gamut, you name it. And we managed at Southern Company about $1.8 billion worth of technology spend in the organization, over 200 plus programs and projects, major technology implementation projects. So I love my job and excited to be here to share with you guys.
That is so exciting. I'm getting excited. I want to ask more questions, but we're going to go ahead and introduce everybody first. So Mary, how about you go next? Go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone and let us know who you are, the company you work for, and what do you do?
So good evening, everybody, and thanks for having us. Very excited. I was telling the other ladies that this is my second voyage on a panel discussion with the AITP. So several years ago, I had the honor of presenting on robotic process automation, which sounds really boring, but it's really not. So my name is Mary Hooper, and I work at Synovus Bank, which is a regional bank throughout the Southeast. And I've been with Synovus for, you were talking about, Sudanese, you were talking about dating yourself. I've been there 17 years, which is hard to believe because I'm only 23. So you can do the math. A little north of 23. But I've been with Synovus for 17 years. I'm the senior director over digital strategy and innovation. And I have the coolest job. I think a lot of people listen to that and go, ugh. But I really get an opportunity to look at ways through the digital and IT space to just cement that relationship with the customer. And that's certainly a through line at our company. And it's, customer centric, customer first. And how do we build the relationship? How do we basically, I can remember years ago, I used to joke about how do we push the lollipop through the computer screen? Because as a child, I remember going to the bank and getting the lollipop, the dum-dum would come down the tube. And that was a big deal. For me, it's still a big deal, free lollipop. So it's, how do we personalize that experience and how do we do it from a digital perspective and just make lives a little bit easier? And I think that's really what I get to do. And it's pretty neat. Prior to Synovus, I was with Georgia Public Web and Municipal Electric Authority of Georgia. I had a rare opportunity to help bring bandwidth and fiber optics into municipalities throughout the state of Georgia and help with technology plans there. And just see that digital divide that was certainly a part of the heartbeat of Georgia in the 90s. Got to work with different organizations in the state level, to bring about some change there. And prior to that, I got to tour musical theater for about 10 years. So I got to tour in Europe and across the US, mainly in the South. That's landed me in a really happy spot. So delighted to be here.
I'm super excited. So last but not least, I'm going to jump to Chalcy. Chalcy, tell us a little bit more about who you are, the company you work for, and what you do.
Hi all, again, very excited to be here. Sudanese, you are not the first one, the newbie here. I am a newbie too. And with that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Chalcy Raja. Very fortunate to get to be a master of engineering in the early 80s, which was not many women did at that time, I guess. And then came to US for Doctor of Engineering, and then moved to Atlanta, greatest city ever, and then working in IT, and having worked from infrastructure to data analytics to data science, everything in between, programming, website, log management, anything you name it in the IT space, and also a little bit on the business side, because I have always been in the bridging between the business and the IT. So have done a lot of work. I wanted to count how many companies. I can't even count, I think. But I did stay in companies like Career Builder and Equifax more than 5 years. Currently, I am Chief Technology Officer for Impact Capital Funds, which is a fintech startup, a mission-driven company. And I am in charge of the student loan lending platform. So my everyday work is, policy writing, make sure we have all the privacy, because we are going to deal with highly regulated data. So the security to the highest security possible, and also working on the responsible for the website and the data and the credit pull and everything right now. So it's very exciting to be here and doing what I'm doing, and have been. I'm also involved with Women in Big Data. If you have not heard about it, please join. And for the past years, 1 year, I was the CIO for that. And, definitely did some digital transformation there. And then now being a technology advisor for that. And have a long career, and very excited to be here again, Georgette.
Wonderful, wonderful, Chalcy. I'm so excited. I have so many questions, but I'm going to try to stay on, sort of stay on the original script, because we only have a limited time. So let's jump into some of the more interesting questions where you guys can elaborate on just your experiences and how things have been. I know that we've had this conversation, some of us have at least, but I want you guys to share a little bit about the passion that you had. What passion were you following when you got into IT? What is it that drove you into technology, and how did you find that space? Like, how did you find the IT space? Some of us do it, or we wanted to be a technologist forever. That was not me. But I think I always say IT found me. I didn't find IT. But I was coding at the age of 11. So yeah, obviously it found me somehow. So I want to know, what was your passion? What were you following when you got into IT, and what about it appealed to you? So why are you still here? Why are you still driving and living in this space?
I'm glad to go. I'll start, Georgette. Yeah. So I did have a diverse, and it's interesting. I think folks will learn as we go through these panelists. There's an interesting common theme. And, I came off the road touring and doing musical theater. And at the heart of that, and to me, it's very much the heart of all of our jobs. It is how do we communicate with people? And the channel may be digital, But I think for it to be successful, the intent has to be human. And how do we make that connection through a very impersonal space? How do we do that digitally? And so that's very much what I get a kick out of is that communication, just like when you're performing in musical theater or writing a piece of music. Georgette, from your years in opera, it's the same thing. It's how do you take something that sometimes is tough to consume, opera, and make it mean something to people. And I think that's the trick for technology. How do we show people this is a way of doing things that's going to free up your time, and this is a way of doing things that allows you to communicate with family members halfway around the world. How do we take this technology? This can be so intimidating. And in my work life as well, finances can also be intimidating to people, right? Financial discussions can be hard, especially for women, or at least for me. How do we take all those barriers that people have, predisposed notions about IT and the Geek Squad and finance and banking, and how do we humanize all of that and wrap it in a way technically that makes it have value and is extensible and scalable for the family and has meaning behind it? So to me, it's really relationship, and it's that communication, and it's that connection that's been a passion of mine in any role I've ever been in, but it is the basis for pretty much everything I do.
Great. Yeah, one thing that we've always said in AITP Atlanta is that IT is great, but it always takes people. And I think when as technologists, when you actually understand the truth behind it, not just the people behind building the technology, but the people that need to use the technology. And that's where I find the people that are true technologists, when they really get it right, is when they put people first, and not just the systems, and not just the software, and not just, what we call IT, because it really is more, for me, technology is always around the people. And that's such a great point, Mary. Would you like to go next, Sudanese? How did you get into IT? What was it? What was it, your passion that drew you to this space?
I like you, Georgette. I didn't have a passion at the onset. When I graduated from high school, I received a 5-year scholarship, and one of the provisions of that scholarship was to actually major in computer science. And so I was introduced in college to technology and research around technology and the use of technology to advance. And to be honest with you, I was thinking at that time, at that time, technology was the booming, industry, and, you can make a lot of money. And, the dollar signs were running through my head as I did, went through my class and my coursework. But soon after graduation and actually beginning to work in that field, I started out as a developer, right? I was one of those people that sat behind the screen and I coded. I'm sure all of us are very familiar with that. I was Unix system administrator and moved into web development. And I'll be honest with you, at that time, I really still didn't have a passion. I was really just going to work and just doing what I was supposed to do in order to pay the bills and things of that sort. I really started to find a passion, believe it or not, when I joined a security team as a technologist. And I realized and started working in the pure technology, pure security space with the spin on a business platform. And so at that point, it really kind of, I'll say, tweaked my thoughts and imagination around how do we intersect business with technology in some way, shape, or form. And so that was the pivotal point when I started to actually think about project management and thinking of technology from a business perspective, right? We always think of technology as a person who is developing code or a person who is strategizing around the latest technology. But all of, if you think about all the things that we do, it's really to support the business in some way, shape, or form. And we also have to manage those projects and those programs to actually make sure we're delivering quality solutions. So I got really in depth into what should that process look like, and how do we focus on quality, and how do we ensure that we make sure that what we're delivering is something that the business can utilize and is going to add business value, and really thinking about that value realization. So when I really think the pivotal point is when I connected technology, not just to people, but the idea of technology as a business. And I think that has kind of spearheaded my direction around how I think about PMOs, not just thinking about project management offices as a body of people that produce technology, but how do we get value and how do we really ensure quality products as a part of what we do. So it's a little bit of a different spin on technology. I am a technologist, like I'm a coder at heart, right? But I think there's, not just thinking about the solution we put in place, but how do we transform an environment based on the solutions that we're deploying? And it ties into the people piece, but how do we make sure that we are transforming organizations based on the technology that we put in place is really, I think, where my passion lies. I think it's evolved. One thing I will say really quickly, I think it's evolved over time, right? I've gotten into really thinking about value realization versus putting a product out there. I've focused my project management team on building strong relationships with the business so that we really think about change management and organizational impact. So it's transformed and grown over time, but I really do believe that's when the real passion for technology and business kind of merged was when I took that position.
I think that's cool. And we continually find parallels in who we are and what we do. I shared with the panelists earlier that, I think technology found me because I was coding at 11, the same things, very, very similar. I was chosen to go to a school called the computer school. And this was in the 80s. And they were like, I was like, what is a computer school? I still have my little word processor. I don't even have a computer at home. I had my word processor at home. And they put me in the room with these Apple computers and these 5.5-inch discs.
Floppy discs, you remember the floppy disk? Everybody
yes, those truly floppy disks.
Yeah.
And I started hacking into the computers and I started changing the codes and I was like, it wasn't a passion yet, but I think just like you, Sudanese, when I actually got to the point where I had a career in business and I figured out how technology made that so robust and you were able to innovate and you were able to drive and create new things. That's when I think that's when my passion came about. It's like, I could do this. This is kind of fun. But when I realized how practical we could use it to kind of change the world and how people do business and do things, I was like, this is it.
And you can make money doing it.
You can make money doing it. Good money doing it too. So thank you. So Chalcy, tell me a little bit more about your passion. I know you mentioned a little bit about it in your introduction, but tell us, what was the passion that drove you into IT? What was it that made you go, whoo?
I think I am a twin sister of Sudanese. I don't know. I didn't start it as a passion. When I was in the third year of my engineering, I did do some Fortran programming. That was my introduction. And then did my thesis at that time on finite element analysis. And then coming to US, and I did my thesis here as in structural dynamics. I was thinking of designing a piece in NASA. That was my dream at that time. And then I heard a conversation on from a friend who returned from Detroit, Chicago, I don't remember, who came to Louisiana Tech, who was on our elevator, and he was telling, hey, I got this cool job in IT. He's a mechanical engineer, and then, they will sponsor my H1, and there you go. Okay, so now we get job only there. So that's how I found IT. And programming, I know programming. I've been a coder, I know a database. I can do this. And started with the great Power Builder. Still to date, Power Builder is the greatest tool. So did that at that time and then started my journey. I really found my passion. Although I love data, I couldn't become a database administrator in a way in my mind because I am a mom. I don't want to be stuck in the overnight production support calls. That kind of what I was thinking or perceiving about database and database administrator or whoever is dealing with data. So I was like not going in that path and chose programming, developing. And then when I was kind of asked around by my manager, like, who wants to work with Hadoop? That's when I said, I raised my hand and I said, okay, I will work on it. I don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. Figure out something. So that's where I found my passion. When I figured out what that first Hive query means to a IAS weblog, I found that, so in that, and there are many, the first. So the more I find, the more exciting I became. So I can vouch, like if we are passionate about something, you can get to great heights. I think I realized that at that moment. And that's my changing point, if you will. And since then, I have been with the big data as the big data trailblazer, first in everything with cloud. And it was a wonderful, wonderful journey. That's where I found my passion. And that's what I am doing right now. And very exciting. And then also figured out the other, as I grow into my career, kind of figure out the other things needed with my experience of website developer, log processing, going through all the core objects and even the collaboration tools. The more and more I get to understand the tools and how they are all communicated in a big organization, and starting to use one by one, and also implementing the whole solution at Women in Big Data. Wow, this is neat. And that's where I really know this is what I want to do. I can be that whole technology leader for a company is what I decided. And that's when I got the job too. So it was all meant to be, I guess. But one leads to another. So it's a very interesting thing looking back.
Yes, definitely. So I'm going to throw in a lightning round question. We usually do this when we're in person. So I'm going to go around and I want you to say, I'm going to come up with this question. Okay, iPhone versus Android. iPhone versus Android. Who's Sudanese? iPhone versus Android.
Oh, come on. This is easy. iPhone.
iPhone. Okay, Mary.
iPhone user, but I prefer Android.
Oh, okay. Chalcy.
iPhone user, but also use Android just so I don't fall off the technology.
Oh, come on.
I'm team Android all day. I'm a Google Pixel user. I love it. I love it. They take better pictures. I'm just saying.
Oh my God. My husband is an Android user. So you guys just, gave him the win. So keep
Okay. Microsoft Outlook or Google Gmail? Which one?
Google Gmail.
Google Gmail.
I don't know. Yeah, Google. Although I use both. I have used both. Too.
I was gonna say both. I'm with them. I'm going both. I'll use them for different purposes.
Yes.
Yes.
Same thing. I use both too, but I think I always lean personally to Gmail. I think something about it being kind of more, just for me, it's a little bit.
It feels more modern for some reason. I don't know if it's because my Outlook is, I don't know. It
feels a little old. And I'm not gonna say that out loud. No, I like both of them because our company is both a Microsoft and a Google partner. Yes, I love both of them. Okay.
My Outlook, it's a competition which is making it healthy, right? Both of them are trying to reach, what's their best, trying to balance out at the end of the day. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you need that healthy competition. You really, really do. Okay, so you guys have had some very interesting careers in technology, and you've been around the block. You're not new to this game. So what do you think is the most significant change that you've seen, specifically around women in technology, since you've compared from when you first started your career to present day? What's the biggest change? And I'll start with whoever jumps in first.
I think I'm the senior lady here. I'm looking at Frank Raimondo's comments in the chat, and he's talking about 8-inch floppies, and I can do you one better, Frank. I remember punch cards.
Oh, Frank,
yes.
Yeah, so we're with you. We're tracking. But I think one of the things, Georgette, is just the presence of women in the space. So my first job, when I came off of the theater stuff, I was in a power company where it was engineers, and I was literally the only woman in the group. So to fast forward, 20 years, it's, I look at our leadership and I look at, the people that I mentor and that I'm mentored by, and there are women in these positions that were definitely, dominated by men. And I'm sure that Chalcy can certainly attest to that switch that happened. And I think a lot of that is due to, that was an area, it felt like women still, there was a barrier. Even when I came in the late 80s, early 90s, there still felt like a barrier there where, there was an expectation that was kind of not a space they could play in. And boy, has that changed. So, my own daughter, who's 18, she goes to a college in Atlanta. And I look at her opportunities versus my opportunities. And then I look at my mom's opportunity. With each generation, you just see a drive and an expanse of opportunity. And I don't even know, in my experience, if it wasn't, you couldn't do that. It was just not something you should do. I mean, it was almost like a non-spoken cultural thing, like, oh, you're supposed to be a nurse or a school teacher, and you're not supposed to play with the trucks. And it was just sort of a thing where women just weren't in the space. And I think now that we've started to infuse into the space, we bring a dynamic that is powerful and obviously a high degree of competency in the space. And so I think just being present, being there, is what's changed the most for me.
I think about opportunity, right? I mean, we say women, but I also think minorities as well, right? The whole gamut. I remember when I was, and I won't call the company's name, when I was working for a previous company, I was on a web development team, and literally it was me and all men, of course, at that time, because it was mostly men in technology at that time, down to your point. And I remember getting promoted to lead that web development team. And I just remember, to be honest, not getting the support, right? Because I was a woman and likely too a woman of color. And so I think since then, of course, it drove me to want to, I remember at that time also being told I wouldn't be able to become a leader in technology, right? Because, it was a, male dominated space, right? And so, of course, that propelled me. I'm hard-headed. It propelled me to want to do more and to be the best that I could be in that space. But I do believe, to your point, that there has just been a wealth of opportunity in education and certifications, and there's so many different paths that you can take now to get, from like you say, from theater all the way to technology leader, right? I mean, there's so many different paths and so many opportunities and so many scholarships and so much money out there now where people want to see more diversity in leadership and even in management or even working in the IT field. And so I think that, while there is presence and while there is opportunity, there's still some ways we've got to go around, getting women into more leadership positions, right? I think we're starting to see more women with seats at the table and more women in the strategic discussions around moving technology forward than we've seen in the past. But I do think there's an opportunity to continue that momentum and continue that push. And again, not just women, but also minorities and other people, and just making it a truly diverse environment where you're getting all of that thought leadership in different ways, at the table when they're talking about the strategy of technology, not just working in technology, but leading and making decisions in the technology space.
Great.
Absolutely.
Points. Great. What about you, Chalcy? What do you think? What's the biggest change you've seen from when you started to now, for specifically around like women in technology? And I think that's a great point about minorities in technology too. I think I had my blinders on when I started. I was so used to being the only me in the room. I was so used to being, especially when I started my career, the only woman, the only minority, the youngest, at that point, it was a whole bunch of bald-headed, older white males, suspenders that I was in the room with. And I kind of put my blinders on because I wasn't used to anything else. So when people ask me that same question, it's like, what was it like being a woman in technology or minority in technology or anything when you started? I don't really know because I would never focused on it because I just knew I had the knowledge and the insight and the education and the drive to be in those rooms. So I didn't really look and think about being that only person. But in retrospect, I was like, wow, really, I was. I was that only person during those times, and it's kind of mind blowing for me to see the amount of women now, the amount of diversity in the room, and we still have a long way to go. But it's still when I had to keep my blinders on because I was the only one for so long to be able to have conversations like this with amazing, powerful women that are driving technology and innovation. And it's like, wow, I am no longer the only person. Stop asking me that question. So Chalcy, how about you from before until when you started until now, women in technology, what do you think what is the biggest changes you've seen?
So when I started before even, into IT, when I was a teaching assistant in the engineering class of mine, structural engineering, I don't remember what classes, I was the only one in the class, and I gave a assignment to the class, I think 50 plus students, and they were doing things, and only the two girls in the class came up to me with some question. I'm sure that more than half the classroom did not know what they were supposed to even do, but they didn't ask. So I was like, wow, I have seen when the professor was in class, everybody would go and ask, but nobody came to me. So that was a shocking time when I came fresh from India to here on a F1 visa. It was really shocking because in India, I was also teaching for some time, and people would recognize me for my degree and for my knowledge and things. I didn't see that. It was shocking to me. Since then, a lot of shocking experience, even in technology. And for some time, I didn't mind that much because I was a developer or I was doing something, always trying to rush out, going to pick up the kids, dropping, all those things for some time. And then it struck when I was trying to move up. That's when I realized there is a big roadblock and I am not heard. And I had to kind of fight in a way. Even when I was a senior software engineer, I would say something, but it becomes a good idea. Only the person right next to me reiterates that, or someone tells that in a different way that it is a good idea without even giving the credit for my idea. So that has been my story. And I find today there is a strategic and kind of we have to include, and we are including mentality, but not really including you because you have the knowledge, right? In many areas that is true, especially in the whole core infrastructure. I have seen it even like few years ago when I was in one company I won't name. I was the only one presenting this design of the whole big data environment to the advisory board, engineering design board. I was the only one. It struck me immediately, oh, I am the only one presenting technology which they are not familiar with. So I went down to like a simple phrase of how I can bring everybody up to speed on the technology and do it. I did an awesome job, but it struck me for a minute. I'm the only one. And so I can still tell there are people as a Scrum Master, as a project manager, and things like that, more women. And there are not many strong technical architects, for example. There are not many, very few, and or a manager to a team where you can manage. So going up from that, leading leaders, and also having or being a technical, highly technical savvy person is really rare, but I do see a few, but you can name them, you can communicate with them, contact with them. So there are very few. I would like that to change. I don't, in my mind, I don't even want to celebrate International Women's Day. Why do we even do that? There is no Men's Day. So my philosophy is, when we don't see the gender and see as a person, everybody in the room, and not even think about it and discuss, that's when we really achieved the equality. Right now we talk and we bring it, we do it purposely in a picture. Yeah, you have to bring in 2 women and one is a diversity candidate, right? So that is intentionally done. But are we doing it because of just the talent and not even seeing who that person is? I can get very passionate. That's one of my passion, of course, as you can see. Yeah, that's my take. I would like that to, there is a lot of opportunity to change.
It'll be a beautiful day when we don't have to talk about diversity anymore.
Exactly.
It would be an absolutely beautiful day where we're not saying, hey, you know, we need to make sure we have more women, that it's just not a thing. It's like we have people that fill the roles and that's it, you know, or we need to have more minorities, or we need to have more, you know, LGBTQ, or we need to have any, it's just, it would be great if we ever reach that point in the world where we don't have to have a day for just being you. So I completely agree with you, Chalcy. Let me see. I don't think we have any questions, but I'm going to put it out there because we're kind of past the halfway mark, and I want to make sure that our attendees, who are very, very vocal in our chat, that they think about some questions for our panelists too. So I have a couple more questions to go through, but if you're listening out there and you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to put them in our Q&A so that we can ask some of your questions as well. So the next question I have is, this one: if you were able to talk to your younger self, what is the most significant piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
I can jump in.
Yes, go on.
I think if I could talk to my younger self, I would say a couple things. You can do more than 1 or 2 things and be successful, because I had 2 passions, and we talked about being creative right before we jumped on. I actually am a wardrobe stylist. I have my own fashion consulting company. So I'm a little bit in the creative side as well. And I'm also a technologist, which I love both of them. I wouldn't trade one for the other. It sounds the same as you guys with music and arts. And so I think I went down a path of, you know, being completely dedicated to technology when I could have been doing both. Right. So I figured out in my older age, I won't tell you how old I am, but I figured out in my older age how to merge the 2 and still be successful, right? And balance the 2 and still be successful. So I would definitely say, you know, you can do more than one thing. You can have more than one passion. Technology can be one of them, and that's okay, right? You can do more than one thing at the same time. We're all super dynamic, strong women. And then the second thing I would say is you know, we typically start in technology in some sort of corporate, you know, starting point, right? Where we're working in coding, or we're working in web development. And we don't think about it from an entrepreneurial perspective, right? We think about it from an entry perspective. And I think we as women, men, everyone, we need to think about owning in the technology space versus working in the technology space or supporting a company in a technology space. It's okay. I've got great experience working for different companies, but I wish I would have planted in my mind earlier on that I could also own in the technology space. So those are a couple of things that I would have, if I could go back to, you know, my young, vibrant days, I would have definitely thought more about ownership and diversity in how we think about IT, and just how could I be an owner in this space, or a leader earlier in this space.
Look, it's never too late.
Never,
It's never too late. So they always think that's funny too, because people always say, well, you know, as a CEO of an innovation and technology company, it's like a lot of times, even in AITP, I was president of AITP for a couple of years, AITP Atlanta. And there's a ton of times where I'm just in the room and I'm like, okay, I need to make sure there's more people doing this, especially from the ownership and leadership perspective. And that's kind of my passion in life now. It's like, you want to make a bit, create not just a career, you want to be out there and start changing the world and employing others and putting that into the next generation too. So who wants to jump in next? Mary, Chalcy, who wants to talk about what's the most significant piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
I think eat less Little Debbie snack cakes. That would be the number one piece of advice. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I'm not. I think that, I guess maybe two things other than Little Debbie is be both. And it was a bit about what Sudanese was saying, but for me, it was more as you start to step out, and maybe Chalcy experienced this, and you have a family, and then you're also trying to build a career at the same time. It is possible to be both. It feels like oftentimes I felt like, well, I had to be the career woman, and so therefore my kids would suffer, and then or I had to be the mom, you know, that worked, and I didn't, you know, and then work would suffer. But it is possible to blend both of those things together. And I think that's possible by two things. One, give yourself a break, forgive yourself, because every day you're not going to be perfect. You know, you're just not. So get over it. You're not going to be perfect, and give yourself the break you'd give everybody else. Because I sense that everybody on this panel was probably a very, very driven type of personality. And I think that personality has a tendency to reflect back on themselves and never give themselves a break. They hold themselves constantly to a higher standard, which is good, but it's also a curse. And then I think the other thing to get that be both mentality is be your voice. So for me, that simply means don't sit back and be fearful of a no around a salary increase, a promotion. I mean, that is one of the things, and maybe you ladies can speak on this. Like, I had to get real comfortable about talking about my reward from work. It was so uncomfortable to me. I think it's maybe it's a female trait, because we're used to being nurturers and givers, and we, you know, you're not supposed to look for getting rewarded back. Right. And I don't know that maybe men or maybe have been better at sort of talking about, you know, I expect this and I want an extra week of vacation and so forth. So, and I found that if I step up for myself wherever I worked and had those conversations, that it was very well received. And you know, the worst that ever happened was I got a no. Okay, I'm still here. Right. And I think you have to get comfortable with managing your own career path in life, be it with your family or with work. And you have to know that it's not wrong for you to ask. What's wrong is for you to just accept what's given if it's not what you deserve. You got to stand up for yourself all the time. And so I'll get off my soapbox, but those are the things that's the advice I'd give myself.
Those are really good ones. They're especially being kinder to yourself. That's been my mantra for 2021. It's been, you know, be kinder to yourself. Stop, you know, always having to feel like you can celebrate those little things, you know, relax, be, you know, give yourself some just relaxed time, not just a relaxed time, but it's okay to be okay.
It's so funny. I'll jump in really quickly. I'll make sure I give Chalcy a chance. But to your last point, I remember a pivotal point earlier in my career when I had been laid off. It was my first time ever being laid off in technology. We had a change in leadership. They wanted to go a different direction. It happens, right? And I was devastated. Like I'd never ever thought in my whole career that my skill set, I'm thinking, oh, I'm smart. I can do all of this. I've done all of this, I was really, just struggling with the fact that I actually had gotten laid off. How do you get laid off? And I remember I started interviewing, right? Immediately kind of got back into, let me interview them. And I had gotten an offer for a position. And it was okay. It wasn't bad. It was, I'll share anyway with six figures, whatever. But at the time of my career, I should have been, it should have been different, right? But anyway, it was a decent, but it wasn't what I thought I was worth. Like I knew what my skill set was. I knew what I was worth. I knew, my experience and what I could bring to the table. And I sat down, never forget, I sat down as a mentor that had been mentoring me for 5-6 years. And we met organically at an event, and she was a leader in technology. She owned her own staffing company, was amazing. Won't call her name, but amazing. I'm still get mentored by her today. And I remember meeting with her for lunch, and I was, kind of baffling over this. And I'm like, well, should I ask for more? And I remember she turned to me and she said, is it exactly what you want? And I said, no. I said, it's not. She said, well, why are you thinking about taking it? Like it was a moment where I was thinking, okay, I really should be actively like designing what I want in this next position, because I'm in charge of my career. And I ended up I had no job, and I ended up turning that offer down. And I waited until the right offer where I felt like I was getting paid what I deserved, with the right leadership opportunity. And it was just a pivotal moment in my career where I like Mary said, I said, I'm going to ask for what I want. I'm going to only accept what I want, and I'm going to do a darn good job. Right. And that's kind of where I was. And I think had I not gotten that advice, I might have taken that position, even though it wasn't perfect for me. Right. It wasn't the perfect job. But I really do think, to her point, we have to control our destiny. We have to be in charge of our career paths, and don't be afraid to say no to something that is not on that journey. It's okay, because there will be other opportunities, and you really have to know your worth in industry so that you can ask for it and expect it, right? And expect that worth. So just wanted to share that story because it was so close. I was over here nodding like, yes, Mary, yes.
yes, and yes.
But you have to think about it. And I think it's so important. It's so important.
It's funny you bring that up. When I remember when I decided to start my own company, and I received an offer, and it was probably the highest offer I've ever received in my entire career. And I told them no, and they went up, and they kept on going up and up. Every time I said no, they kept on going up. And it was like more money than I have ever seen in anybody's bank account. And I'm looking, I'm like, yeah. I remember calling my mom on the way home, and I was like, Mom, am I crazy? Because I'm about to tell them no again. I said, am I sure I could even do this? Can I run a company? Can I be a CEO of something? I mean, they're paying me who says no to this kind of money? And she was like, baby, follow your heart. And she was like, what you want, what you're passionate about. If you were to say yes, you would not be happy. And I said, you're right. Now having my own business has been, that was an interesting challenge to take on. But, our first client was Delta Airlines. And it was like, I was like, wow, we were able to land this. We worked with companies like the CDC doing their data analytics. We worked with companies right now we're working with some of the major cities across to do some of their digital transformation. I'm sitting there looking back like, I remember just crying in the car, like, I don't know if I could do this. And why would I turn down this crazy amount of money to do something I don't want to do? But yeah, when you follow your heart, it works out, especially when you know what you're worth and you know what you can do, and you know that you know what you know. And I wish I could tell my younger version of myself that it's like, when there's no reason to question yourself.
Yep.
Chalcy, what would you tell your younger version?
I just, I'm going to add with what Mary said. Take a break, yes, just take a break if you want to, for even 2-3 years. If you want to be the best mom, or I mean, I wouldn't call best mom, want to be the mom and not worry about work, do that. Don't, I mean, if you have the means and if you can do that, all those addendums come there. But, that is something is okay. I did that one time, and, I was afraid. I thought I could never come back to the career where I left off, but I did better than before. So it's okay. And another thing, add with what Georgette was saying, and also Sudanese, it's like the mentor. I tell my younger self to find the mentor as soon as you can, right, in your career. So, and I would like to be the mentor to anyone who comes to, because there is so much you can learn, like what we are saying, right? Say no, it's okay. Ask for more salary, it's okay, right? All you're going to get is no, and that's okay, right? So each one of them, I kind of, I asked for a 10K more, and I was praying that they will give me, or at least not reject me, was my moment at some point, So always having that kind of mentor who can help you in different phases and different way of life. My father was a mentor, if I think about it, like your mom, right? So I have great mentors along the way, and you kind of think what they would do or talk to them, and kind of, and also be a good receiver. They are saying something and you receive it and you execute it. Because one of my bosses told me, hey, Chalcy, if you are wanting to move up, it's hard work. You have to do it. I can't tell you this is all 1, 2, 3 you do to become that. You have to find your own way. That's when I was thinking, what is my way? What is my way? How do I do this? How do I do that? That inner quest kind of caused that a lot, paired with her mentorship, right? And one thing before we close, in my journey, more men helped me than women.
Yeah.
So as women actually pushed me down in many cases. So I would ask of all the women leaders, my last and always my request is bring along your fellow women. If somebody is trying hard to climb the mountain you climbed, just bring them along. There is plenty in this world for everyone. We can have that, right? So that is, I'm closing with that because we are running time and there are some questions.
Well, you know what, that leaves, I wanted to answer some of the questions that we don't all have to answer it, but some of the questions that some of our attendees are asking, and Chalcy, yours leads right into George's question. He asked, what would you recommend I do to best introduce young women to the IT area, other than watching something like this, of course? Anybody want to chime in and say what he did? And for me, like you, Chalcy, most of my mentors and the people that reached back and pulled me into rooms, the majority of them were men. There were a couple of females along the way, but the majority of them were men that said, hey, this woman is smart and she's passionate and she has the drive and she can do the work. Let's go ahead and I'll help her do that, open that pathway. But what do you guys see that he can do outside of?
So George's question is, what would you recommend that I do to best introduce young women to the IT area?
Yes.
Just, talk to them. Even in somebody is a scrum master or a project manager or whatever, right? So in your own area floor, just reach out and talk to people. Find out what they can do, make anyone comfortable. I have just talked to someone on the plane, found out that that person is interested in coming to IT and provided a roadmap. You can do this, right? So things like that, reach out and be the person, like telling them, kind of assure in a way, give some kind of assurance and say that you can do it. Keep doing, you can do it. I think it's a kind of magic word. If you tell anyone, just to make them believe you can do it, that does wonders. So if you get a chance to talk to any women out there, and also men too, everyone needs that, in one corner doing something, to tell them, find out a little bit more, get some personal, because we are all people. We will open up when we are comfortable. Even if you're a CTO, CIO, CEO, whoever it is, talk to the person who is hesitating to talk to you probably, and you will find out, you will find a way. Thank you for thinking about it, George. I'm sure you will do it.
Anyone have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, be honest, be a mentor, but I think the biggest thing in all of that is to help create opportunity. Yes. And I think sometimes we mentor, and we think to be honest with you, sometimes we've checked that box, right? We say, oh, we mentored, we checked the box, we did our part. But mentoring should really lead to opportunity. That's where the value is. You're not just introducing them to it, you're allowing them, and you're taking a risk, and you're allowing them to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So I just say, continue your mentoring path into opportunity. And I think that's what would really be helpful to a lot of people.
Okay.
I think it's important too for us. I mean, it's sort of dovetail onto what Chalcy said. And I noticed the question was young ladies. So let's say that school age, there are opportunities for us as women leaders in technology, if you want to call it, I don't see myself as that, but to make ourselves available in the school system, in the classroom, to sort of introduce girls that may not see IT as an opportunity or a path for them, to sort of expose them to what it really means. Because I think we get so locked into what IT is, and it turns out it's really not that. It's a heck of a lot more than that little narrow band that we thought it was. So I think, the question to me, I turn it on myself, and I challenge the other ladies in this panel and on the webcast, what can we do to get out there and evangelize and spread the word? Because I think all of us, it sounds like, kind of fell in to it, to some degree or the other. And I think we all need to be ushering in the next generation of people, particularly ladies. But I do think giving the opportunity and the encouragement is huge. And we are not to a place where we don't have to have programs and special attentiveness to diversity and to women in the workplace. We're just not there yet. So I would continue down the path of just making sure people understand that you're open to that as an employer, you're open to that as a mentor, and that we as women, again, like Chalcy said, help bring some others along. But, all boats rise with the tide. Mm-hmm. There's enough for everybody.
Most definitely.
That is a great organization in Atlanta, ERUP. ERUP does a wonderful job of bringing the people, filling that 1 year gap, and by partnering with all the all companies, and give a big start. I can put it up there. We can that is something we can be a part of and help. So just saying, they are doing what Sudanese is asking, how to handhold and help them really achieve, really find a job, really do that, not just mentoring, right? So they can do that. I agree with you totally that we have to do, we should make that effort to be able to do more.
Yes, and we're closing out on time. So there's a couple of questions we may not get to. Some of them are around tech talent, which is good. A good question too, where our company is actually helping our way of helping to bridge the tech talent gap right now is we're working with WorkSource Georgia in the state of Georgia to become an apprenticeship. And create apprenticeship programs where we're going to be able to, create new project leaders and new technologists that, may not necessarily have to go the traditional path, but give them on-the-job experience and pair them with a mentor. But I want to get to this last question. This last question I'm going to take from Rachel. She's one of our board members, Rachel Stuve. And I think this is a great question because it's from another woman that's in technology, that's in a leadership role herself, but it's wonderful, especially from a mentorship level, but as women that are leaders and the women that are in tech spaces, what are some of your best tips for commanding a room as an executive? you know, because a lot of times, even when we get to the space, we kind of, as I see it as women, and I'm not shy, but but I know that, you know, there's a lot of people that come in. Even when I'm in some spaces, I tend to step back a little bit and let other people command the room. But what is it that you all do when you're in the room to make sure that you are commanding the room as an executive?
I think it's the typical, there are a lot of just typical tips that you would give in terms of, you know, how you're presenting yourself, tone of voice, all those kind of things. I mean, that's one place where being in theater for many years helps, because I'm used to being in front of large groups. I have zero problem expressing myself. But I will tell you, I had a mentor. She was this, I'm not going to go into any more than that, but a mentor. And I wanted to fit in with the guys and to sort of be seen as, you know, one of the gals. Now I have 4 brothers, so my whole life I'm the only girl in the house. You know, I mean, I'm used to being around a bunch of guys. But at work, I found that I would use humor to try to fit in. And I was unaware that I used it so much that it almost had a counter effect, so that I became not clownish, but certainly not taken as seriously, because I was trying to use comedy and humor as a way to introduce myself in a non-threatening way, right? And so I have the mentor thing keeps coming back up, but that was such an important lesson for me to really evaluate how was I trying to make that connection, and it wasn't a way that shored up, you know, a commanding presence when I needed to communicate a message. Was I using a crutch, the crutch of being the funny girl or the this or the that, you know? I mean, I think we all have to come into the room and know that we know, to Georgette's point, what we know. And we have to take ourselves seriously so that we can then turn that around and be the commanding presence in the room without being threatening or, you know, the witch. You know, you have to develop tactics that work with your own personality. But I will tell you, that was one thing I learned, and that mentor is the one that brought it to my attention, that I was joking so much that it was lessening my message. So there's a balance inside your own personality. What is the thing you go to be accepted, to be liked, to be non-threatening? And check yourself on how much you're infusing your presentations and your presence in the boardroom with those crutches, because it can turn on you. So that would be my advice. And that's a great question, Rachel.
It is, and that's some great points. Great answer. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mary. Does anybody else have anything to add to that before we close out?
Yeah, I'll just be honest with you. I don't think about commanding the room. Like, I think it's important to have a voice, and it's important for people to understand what you bring to the table and understand what you're proposing and what your message is. I think I think sometimes, and this is not to say that's not a great question. This is a great question, but I think sometimes we focus on command because we are women, right? We focus on how do we get in and make sure that we're being heard. And I think I try not to focus on that. I always tell people, you get invited to the room, not because of who you are, it's because what information that you have and how much you know and how much you can contribute, right? People invite people into the meeting that they feel are going to add some level of value in that discussion, right? So my strategy is always to be the person who knows as much or more, right? Because there are a lot of times will be other SMEs and all that, and to have done my homework so that the information that I'm going to bring into the meeting or the thoughts that I'm going to bring into the meeting are ones that people are going to listen to and take heed to. It's almost sometimes you command the room by being quiet and speaking when it is that perfect timing where you watch the room and you've seen how things have been discussed, and you and your mind have put it together and can really present a total package, right? So sometimes it's not about being sometimes the loudest voice or the most vocal voice or coming in and controlling the entire room, because that one pivotal moment that's the moment that most people in that room are going to remember. It's when we came to a point where we had an epiphany, or we made a great decision, or someone proposed something that was a new direction, right? Those are the things that people remember in the room. So sometimes it's about, being in control of the room, but most of the time it's about being the most valuable voice in the room. And I think that may be different depending on, what the atmosphere is. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, just wanted to add, Sudanese, I think she's definitely my twin sister. Reading my mind a little bit. Be prepared for where you're going. Be over prepared is okay. That's what I do myself, practice it. Before going into any meeting, know about the people who are coming to the meeting, know about what you're going to talk about in the meeting, know about what advantage or what extra thing you can add, be a value add to a meeting. So agree with you on everything, Sudanese. And I also understand where Mary is coming from. Most of the time, our voice is not heard. Nobody's giving that opportunity. People are keep on talking. What can you do? So I always struggle with how to break a conversation. So wait for the moment, and now learned how to break a conversation and give my suggestion or my voice, raise my voice. So it takes some practice, definitely. Being very uncomfortable to being comfortable and still deliver what you want to deliver takes practice. And with that,
those were all really great points. And I think we can all use all of that in what we do whenever we go into a room, because there's a lot of things in crutches that I know that I've used. And there's sometimes that I've held my voice so long that I walk out the room like, I should have said that. I should have made, I had my opportunity, or I whisper it to somebody beside me and they say it, they're like, hey, Georgette had a really great point that she told me. And it's like, but I should have said it. So, I mean, you guys are giving some wonderful, wonderful nuggets of information. And we're a little bit past the hour, so I want to go ahead and be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you all sharing yourselves with us today. Welcome back, Steve. But I really, really appreciate you guys sharing your time, your knowledge, your expertise. I would love personally, I'm extending an invite. I would love to connect with all of you guys personally and spend some time to get to know all of you a little bit better, because I think there's power in these relationships that we're building. And I would definitely love to continue this conversation with you guys later on. But Steve, here's the baton. I'm passing it on and you can close us out.
Well, I just want to say again, thank you very much. I'm humbled by this conversation. I love everything about it. There's always gems that come out of here. As a father to a daughter who is wanting to be an art teacher, and a son who wants to be a game designer, I encourage both of them to learn a little bit about each. And because I believe that STEM piece will still apply to digital artwork and all those other components that are in there. And I think and Mary, I think you alluded to that too, where, there's IT is not sitting in a back room by the boiler working on a server anymore. It's prevalent everywhere you go, and to encourage that interest and passion inside of the IT world and that love of technology can apply to anything that we do these days. And it's just an amazing thing. And the advice you've provided, always fantastic. Rachel was on a WLiT panel not too long ago herself, and we always learn a little bit. I'll tell you, for me personally, the comment about mentorship, I think, is so important. Having mentored some folks myself, having been a mentee, sometimes we can phone it in, right? Give ourselves the pat on the back. We've checked the box. We've helped somebody, but to actually help somebody in a more concrete way, boy, that's a huge takeaway for anybody, male, female, it doesn't really matter. But so many of these concepts are invaluable. I think as long as we all continue to strive to make the world a better place by treating everybody equally, the better off that we are going to be all the way around. So thank you again for your time. One last plug, become an AITP member. $40 for the year, great opportunity. It'll lead into 2022. You get to meet folks like Mary and Sudanese and Chalcy and Georgette inside of these rooms and shake hands. Thank goodness one of these days we'll get there. Again, we're doing our nominations for our 2022 board of directors. So if you'd like to participate in contributing to these great conversations in these meetings, please feel free to join. So we'd love to see you again. Email your interest to president@AITPatlanta.org. And I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Thank you again, ladies. Fascinating conversation.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you,
so
Georgette,
much.
as well.
Thanks,
Thank you for
everyone.
moderating. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You're welcome.
All right, have a good one.
Have a good night,
Right.
everybody. Thanks again, Georgette. Wonderful job.
My pleasure.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.